I'm to the point of this Alec Baldwin thing. This lady that was shot, murdered. I'm not going to say she was shot, and I'm not going to say it was an accident. I think it has been plotted decades ago from basically liberals talking. Maybe they were getting by with stuff. Maybe they were talking about smoking dope or whatever, or maybe they were talking about criminal activity. And they started talking, because I've never been into a. Well, there's quite a few people that say, what's the perfect murder? My whole life I've heard that ever since I was a kid. Kids get together and think, oh yeah, what's the perfect murder? And I'm like, okay, well, after I thought through it, I don't know if it was, it's probably been thought through before. It's probably for millennia has been known that if you have a kid, that's murder. If you bring somebody to this planet that wasn't here before, they're gonna die. They wouldn't have died had it not been for you and your partner. So that's murder because they're gonna die and they wouldn't have died if it wasn't for you. So sex is murder. I'm just gonna get that out of the way. But these fools, these idiots that they're like, oh yeah, that's theoretically killing, but that's not like it's not like taking your hands and choking somebody until they're dead. Okay, and that's a subject they brings up. They don't like the having children as murder because they probably want to have children, torture them, and who knows, and then just they as they die, they'll get a smile on their face thinking, my kid's gonna die, and then they die with a smile on their face thinking, oh my, their kid's gonna die. Now you can say that parents love their kids, but look how many parents kill their kids. Anyway, so I'm thinking this was a liberal plot decades ago, 30, 40 years ago, of them walking around, groups of them walking around discussing how to kill people and coming up into the movie industry. And now Brandon Lee is killed. It's probably a murder for liberal. It's the actual person pulling the trigger didn't want to pull the trigger. He didn't want to kill him. But whatever. Maybe that was another person that wanted to kill somebody. I don't know. And then there's another guy. There was I don't know, decades ago. There was like a model, a male. I think it was a male model that they shot a blank at him. Or no, or did he? Did he shoot it? Did he shoot it? I don't know. Something about it. A blank was up to his head, and maybe he pulled the trigger on a blank and it blew it. He killed himself. That might have been just stupidity. But anyway, it was a model. So anyway, now I'm not going to say all models are stupid. There's probably one out there that has an education. But anyway, so they're talking about how to kill, and then they come up into the movie industry. Now, they might have not have been in the movie industry. There might have been one person in the movie industry that entered the idea, because they're all coming from different arenas, and they all got their own little thing that maybe they've had this talk before with others, and there was some special little thing about how to kill somebody was brought up in the conversation. So now they're in another group, and all these people are bringing in, well, I work in the movie industry, and we pass the buck off to lower level people all the time, just like politics. And so this is just culminated until it developed. Maybe they had a meeting about it. Maybe there's a whole new different set of people there. And I don't know what the interview was. What was it? The interview for getting a job on that set, for like acting or any of the jobs. Was it, being they could have said, well, there's going to be around guns, so there's a possibility of an accident, and maybe, there could be a murder or something. And would you How would you react to that? And maybe I don't know what they're not giving us any information, and I'm not on an investigation, and I just because I think it's murder, to tell you the truth. But I think there's so many liberals, and they're going to have so many people, just like everything they've done in the last 5 years. They've gotten away with everything, and anybody else does it, and they just gang up on them. Liberals, they work for their own, and then once somebody else tries to do what they're doing, they just gang up and go place the argument that a conservative or whoever had against the liberal actions. And then they just take that action, those arguments, and throw it back. And all these conservatives are flabbergasted, having all this stuff happen. But they're just happening every 48 years with presidency, where these, they'll take one side of the issue, and then they get in, they'll take the other side of the issue. This happens all the time. It's stupid. I'm beginning to hate government. I'm not talking our government. I'm just saying government in general, any government, because they're all in cahoots. Just like this pandemic. I think this pandemic is brought up to take over. The U.S. wanted to take over as a socialist country. And China's probably, I'm not saying that everybody in government is saying, oh yeah, that's what I wanted. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying the elitists, they want more control of people. They want more control of their companies, because they don't like this. They don't like this free talk and people getting together and saying we're going to. Because look at all these companies that were closed down prior to the pandemic. They were closing down people and all this stuff before the pandemic. Getting people fired and all that. And these elitists don't like that freedom of speech. And so they're going to get rid of all these. They're going to particulate all these laws through different types of, it's insanity, basically, what it is. Because this group will have ran through scenarios, and then all they have to do is, when they forget it, all those scenarios go to whoever gets into like these school shooters. Maybe there's people around. Maybe the school teachers all got together. How do you think it would happen here at this school? What do you think could happen? Then they got together, and then they just forgot about it. Because once you talk about something, you forget about it. Somebody else picks it up. Your thought is not invisible, and it's only it's like a tangible, although you can't see it. It's like a tape recording. I mean, that could be what tape recordings and records and all these recording devices are trying to prove, that thought is still around, and people still, you could have a thought, a murderer could have a thought. You could pick up a thought from a prehistoric person that's never been thought, and you get into some sort of the same mode that he was in or she was in whatever scenario they were in, and you might be in whatever, the same thought pattern or something. And whatever it is, I'm not saying that people would recognize it, or even be able to identify it, but it might happen, and it might create something, and it might not. But I'm saying, everybody would be perfect if there wasn't this insanity of people trying to control other people. And it's all comes from all the different things, from breeding, from popular, all this, everything, religion, all government, anything that has to do with, it's all persuasion, but it's all insanity, because people are controlled by insane people. They don't know it. It's just part of the way of life. It's pressure is put on that you don't know, you can't control, like a tree putting a pressure. There's shade. I'm just going to use shade because it's visible. Tree, that song that by Rush, where trees, the oaks were just too lofty, and they took out all the light, or drowned out all the light, so the maples couldn't grow. So I don't know about that, because maples, I got maple leaves, they grow all over the place there. So I think oaks have a hard probably time growing around maples than maples do around oaks. Anyway, but what I'm saying is all this is a controlled scenario, and I do. I think it was premeditated murder from decades ago, and that's how I'd. And I wouldn't just punish the person doing the shooting. I'd punish all the plotters of it. Anybody who was in on the plot. But see, that's the justice system doesn't do it. Oh, it's just the physicality is all we're caring about. We want truth and nothing but the truth. They don't want all the truth. They don't want all the psychological aspects on it. And that's what they're getting. That's what all the society now is, the psychological aspects of all the things that are happening. But they don't want to get into that. They're saying, oh, it's a health problem. Well, they closed down all the insane asylums. There was like 12 insane. I looked it up. They had a big closure back in 80. I don't know, what is it, 86? Reagan or Clinton or maybe, I don't know, Carter. I don't know. I can't remember who it was. But they had a big closure of all the insane asylums. And now all those people that would have been in getting medication are out running around the streets. And you're wondering why people are going around killing people. Well, you got 12 facilities, I'm guessing, for people that are beyond mental breakdowns or beyond a teetering on a mental breakdown, which it was a big spending, I think it was a big spending bill that came up, and they just didn't want to pay. They didn't want to keep all these insane asylums open. But I think this is freaking murder, first-degree murder, plotted. And manipulators on the scene doing it. And they hire the right amount of people out of different places that are like rejects that they're not really worried about if they get another job because they was involved in a murder in their way. You know, they might just be pulling them to cover for the other people. You know, they pull these newbies in to cover for the people that were really the plotters of this. And but I think it was Murder One. I do. She was shot in the chest, for one thing. There was a show, it might have been a documentary, it might have been like 60 Minutes or something, where somebody asked, do you point a gun when you're on it might have been John Wayne, and that, they asked a bunch of cowboy movie people, or it might have been just one question, one guy. I can't remember. It was 40, maybe 50 years ago. And it was, do you point a gun in movies? Oh, no, we don't. A lot of times you're just pointing in, there's nothing there. There's nobody there. They'll film you, and then they'll film the other guy. And, that's what they said back then. They said if we do shoot anything, we're shooting off to the side, but you can't tell because, the camera angle and everything else. Of course, there are movies where they show looking down the barrel and everything like that, but that's a camera in the gun looking down the barrel. So, I mean, it's not of course, they got bullets with cameras now, but anyway, that's what I think about this murder in Hollywood. Back to all of them. As far as I'm concerned, they're all these plots of liberals trying to get away with murder, and they have. They have. Anyway, nobody believe. It's whatever you believe. So I don't push anything because I know how people are there. Well, I'm not going to believe it till my friends believe it, or I'm not going to believe it till the media says it, or I'm not going to believe it till it's written in a book, or I might never believe it because I'll just don't like you and I'll just go against you no matter what. And so anyway, whatever.